A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Welcome to another edition of Bearing Arms, Cam and Company. My name is Cam Edwards. I'm glad to be back with you. Sorry about last Thursday. Had a bit of a family situation that I had to attend to. Sick as well over the weekend. Not sure if this is COVID or just a summer cold. And as you can probably tell, there's something a little bit different, particularly if you're watching. If you're listening, you're just thinking, Cam's got a scratchy voice. But about half of the beard is gone as well. You know, I started growing this beard out the first time about 6 years ago when my wife, Missy, was diagnosed with lung cancer. Being bald, you know, shaving your head in solidarity when she's going through chemotherapy, it didn't really send much of a message. And she said, instead of shaving your head, because you kind of do that anyway, why don't you grow out the beard? I want to see what you look like with a long beard. So I did, trimmed it back when she was in remission. The cancer came back, started growing it out again. So we found out last week that the cancer is growing again slowly. But, you know, this idea that I've had for the past couple of years or so that maybe my beard has magical powers and it is, a cancer preventative, that theory has been put to the test. It has been disproven. And my wife, for the last couple of months, has been saying, hey, you know, if you decided to cut that beard, it really wouldn't bother me. So no longer do I look like a homeless wizard, which is fine. I'm glad. We might grow it back out because, you know, she is still in the fight. So I appreciate your thoughts and your prayers. The news was not as bad as it could have been, but she is definitely still in the fight. And again, as I said, I appreciate all of your thoughts and all of your prayers for her continued fight going forward. So on today's program, we're going to be talking about the fight out in California. Now, you know, the legislature in California, dominated as it is by Democrats, every year, multiple gun control bills aimed at law-abiding citizens are approved, right? Just in the wake of the Bruin decision just a couple of months ago, the California legislature passed nearly a dozen gun control bills, again, all of them aimed at legal gun owners and imposing new restrictions on their right to keep and bear arms. But you know, there were a couple of bills that died in the California legislature dealing with firearms and Hollywood. Yeah. In fact, I think it was Deadline Hollywood. Yeah. That had the story. The Directors Guild of America and the IATSE, which is the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, are, quote, disappointed that the California legislature did not impose new gun control measures on the entertainment industry, specifically, quote, gun safety for film and TV sets. The two unions released a statement over the weekend saying that they are, quote, disappointed and disheartened that this critical legislation, which would have required important safety protections for our members and all workers in our industry, was not passed into law during this legislative session. Unfortunately, we were unable to get these studios to support significant, meaningful, and practical safety reforms that they currently implement in other parts of the world. We remain committed to reforms that protect our members through negotiations with these studios or legislation in California and other states. Those changes require prioritizing safety and allocating resources to make it happen on the ground. So what is it that they were looking for? Well, there's this bill, Senate Bill 831, that was written in response to the shooting on the set of the movie Rust, in which Alina Hutchins was shot and killed by actor Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin maintains he never pulled the trigger. FBI says there's no way the gun could have discharged without the trigger being pulled. This Senate Bill 831 would have prohibited ammunition on film, television, and commercial sets, except in prescribed circumstances, subject to, quote, certain safety rules and laws. It would also have required employers to ensure that any employee responsible for handling or in proximity to firearms on set completes a specific firearm training or equivalent training. Employers also would have had to hire a qualified set safety supervisor for all film and TV productions to perform a risk assessment to be completed prior to the first day of production on a feature, an episode of a series, or a program. That person would have to be on set daily to ensure cast and crew are not engaged in or exposed to an environment or activity that puts workers' health and safety at risk. Now, keep in mind, accidents like the one that we saw on the set of Rust are exceedingly rare, right? The industry, I would have to say, generally does a pretty good job of maintaining safety on set. But what's interesting here is that there were two competing bills, neither one of which made it out of the state legislature. So the Directors Guild of America, the IATSC, they were supporting Senate Bill 831. The Motion Picture Association of America had backed another bill, a competing bill, Senate Bill 829, which also, by the way, died in the state legislature. As Deadline reports, that bill, with prescribed exceptions, would have prohibited the use of ammunition in the production of a film or TV show, would have authorized the use of a firearm in production if it is used with blanks and remains under the supervision of an armorer at all times. It also would have prohibited an armorer from having any other duties, responsibilities, or obligations during the time that a performer is using a firearm, as well as require employers to ensure that a fire code official is present in any production during the time that any firearm blanks are used in the production. So I got to tell you, the differences between these two bills seem fairly minor to me. And frankly, there's nothing stopping any of these studios from putting these measures in place voluntarily. You don't need a law if this is going to be the standard practice that the MPA and studios adopt. I think this is passing the buck. I think this is passing the buck on an epic scale, quite frankly. The entertainment industry wants to seem like they're doing something, right? But, well, we can't act. It's up to the legislature. Meanwhile, you've got various groups lobbying for and against these bills. The state Senate, again, dominated by Democrats, state legislature dominated by Democrats, I'm sure would love to do what the industry wants it to do, but the industry itself can't decide on what that should be. So now the lawmakers get to point the finger back at the industry and say, look, when they decide on what the standard should be, well, we're happy to enact that into law. Meanwhile, all of this aimed at what I think is not a huge problem in the state of California. But then again, legal gun owners aren't a huge problem in the state of California either. And look at how much time and attention Democrats in Sacramento are paying to them. So I don't know what's going to happen with Hollywood. You know, the gun control movement is trying to get Hollywood to go gun free as much as possible, right? You've seen some directors say we won't use even prop guns on set. Well, it's all gonna be CGI from here on out. Again, whatever they want to do, it's up to them. But I do find it very interesting that in California, when you've got all of these groups in the entertainment industry ostensibly wanting to get something done, and yet these measures fail to pass the state legislature, while bills that, in essence, criminalize any marketing materials on the part of firearms industry that might be appealing to minors, that passes. New laws dealing with the right to carry, new laws challenging and allowing for lawsuits to be filed against gun makers, all those passed with wide margins, right? And again, all of them aimed at people who, frankly, are trying to be on the right side of the law. Really shows you where the priorities lie for these California Democrats, right? Money talks, apparently, and the entertainment industry can ultimately avoid, as much as they might say they want these new rules in place. Bottom line is there are no rules in place now, no new rules in place for the entertainment industry. All kinds of new rules in place, however, for legal, law-abiding Californians exercising their right to keep and bear arms. All right, let's turn our attention to today's armed citizen story, our good deed of the day, and our recidivist report. We'll start there with a case out of Pennsylvania, where in Westchester, PA, Michael Relihan reported for the Daily Local News about an expert burglar who stunned officials with a long criminal history. 6 pages long. To be precise. In Pennsylvania, there's something called an RFEL. That is basically a repeat felon. But you can't get that designation under the Pennsylvania sentencing guidelines until you have committed 6 or more felony offenses over the course of your criminal career. That would apply to a gentleman named Victor Anthony Duanolo. He's 47 years old. And according to the Daily News in Westchester, He possesses a criminal record that, quote, left court officials stunned at its length and breadth recently. Senior Deputy District Attorney Carlos Barraza in the Chester County DA's office says it's 6 pages long. He was talking about this in court last week prior to Donanolo's sentencing on burglary charges. I said, I don't remember. I'm sorry, this was the common pleas judge, Patrick Carmody. He said, I don't remember a prior record like this in the 30 to 40 years that I've been working. I've never seen anything like this. His pre-sentencing investigation reports listed convictions going back to 1994 in 4 different states, Delaware, Alabama, Florida, and Pennsylvania. 12 burglaries over the span of 10 years, 3 assaults, 2 robberies, 6 thefts, 2 criminal conspiracies. He actually sounded like he had only really served any lengthy prison time in Alabama and Florida. Was arrested twice while he was awaiting trial on the case that the judge heard last week. Duanolo's attorney, Assistant Public Defender Stephen Dodd, tried to convince the judge that the fault for the repeated crimes fell on Duanolo's lifelong drug and alcohol abuse and the failure of corrections officials to offer him a meaningful, structured form of treatment, saying that he'd been a heroin addict since the age of 18, part of a revolving door form of imprisonment. He said, I don't know anybody who could argue that he did not have a challenging childhood. His father was sentenced to life in prison for murder back in 1975 after stabbing a woman after abducting her outside of a bar in Bear, Delaware. The judge didn't buy the defense attorney's argument. He instead sentenced Duanolo to a prison term of 8 to 20 years, saying that he is beyond rehabilitation. Saying, quote, if I let you out today, you would commit a burglary within a week because that's who you are. You put yourself above others over and over and over again. Okay, so 8 years, 8 to 20, which means 8, which means with time served if he's on, good behavior while he's behind bars. Mr. Duanolo, despite, again, a very lengthy criminal history that stretches back throughout its entirety of his adult life, and possibly into his juvenile years as well, will ultimately still, look, it's not no time. It's not no time, but probably not enough time, given the circumstances and the previous criminal history. So we will keep you up to date on Mr. Duanolo's story. Hopefully won't have anything new to report for at least several years. Today's armed citizen story from Columbia, South Carolina, where a fatal shooting during a home invasion has been ruled self-defense. This comes from the Post and Courier, Lexington, South Carolina, where the 11th Circuit Solicitor's Office found that a man shot his brother-in-law in self-defense after his brother-in-law violently invaded his home. This was back on August 16th. Lexington, South Carolina police say that they believe the brother-in-law, was identified as 33-year-old Matthew Stanfield, actually lived in Colorado, had planned this attack. He was carrying a rifle, a ballistic vest, flex cuffs, a metal chain, as well as extra ammo magazines when he broke into the home where his sister and her husband lived with their 3 children. It was about 5 o'clock on the morning of August 16th. The husband had just left for work, according to authorities, and he got an alert on his phone telling him that someone was outside of his house. He looked at security camera footage, saw his brother-in-law, who had previously made threats to his sister, as well as her husband and their kids. Then the husband then called 911 and reported there's somebody outside the house who shouldn't be there. He ran back home. When he got there, he heard glass breaking. So he's still on the phone with dispatchers. He reported that his home was being invaded. He found his brother-in-law inside the home, striking the bathroom door with a metal bat while his wife was hiding inside. The homeowner and Stanfield then fought. Stanfield went outside, opened a backpack to get his rifle. The husband ran to his bedroom to get his handgun. The 2 men fired shots at each other. When officers arrived, the husband, who had been shot in the arm and shoulder, was waiting outside of the home. Stanfield was found fatally shot in the living room. The 3 children were found in their bedrooms, unharmed. The homeowner's wife, unharmed as well. And again, now prosecutors say that this was a case of self-defense. Didn't take them long to determine that, thankfully. But I think we all know how bad this could have turned out had the homeowner in Lexington, South Carolina, not been able to protect himself and his family from this attack. Finally, today, our good deed of the day, in the right place at the right time, willing and able to do the right thing, to welcome a new life into the world. Yep, there you go. This smiling officer on hand, that's Sergeant Steve Purdy with the Willard Police Department in, I believe this is Willard, Missouri. It was Friday, August the 12th. Call came in around 11 p.m. about a pregnant woman who was in labor in an apartment complex not too far away from the police station. And Sergeant Purdy said, since I was close, I decided to go ahead and head that way, see if I could help. On the way to the apartment, Purdy said the call was updated to say that the mom had actually given birth to her daughter, to her son, Asher Doherty, but the boy's condition was not great. He wasn't breathing. Baby was turning blue. So when Sergeant Purdy arrived, he said Asher's father, Joseph Daugherty, let him in. Purdy saw the mom doing CPR. He said he stepped in and took over during rescue breathing and chest compression. His color was getting better, but he still wasn't breathing on his own. So he asked the parents, do you have anything to suction out your child's mouth? Mom did. And once the sergeant was able to get the airway clear, Asher Doherty started breathing on his own. Sergeant Purdy said it was very tense for me because, I wanted the baby to be okay. And then the mom still needed medical care herself. He said, I've given CPR several times, but never to an infant. I've never been part of a baby being born. Thankfully, again, mom, baby, dad, and yes, Sergeant Steve Purdy, all doing well in the aftermath of what was a chaotic and scary situation. Glad to see smiles on all those faces there, and glad to see that mom and dad able to reunite with Sergeant Purdy, along with their son Asher. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Bearing Arms Cam & Company. I want to thank you for being a part of the program as always. We will be back tomorrow with even more of the latest Second Amendment news and information that you need to know about. But you don't have to wait until then. You can always check out bearingarms.com. We've got you covered throughout the day, constantly updating the website with the latest 2A news and info. If you like what you see, you can also become a VIP member of Bearing Arms. Just go to bearingarms.com/subscribe. Use the promo code GUNRIGHTS, and you can get a significant savings on your VIP membership. We're also going to give you, as our way of saying thanks for showing your support, exclusive news stories, analysis, stuff you won't find anywhere else, because your support does matter, and it really does make a difference. Hope you have a great rest of your Monday and a fabulous week ahead. We'll be back again tomorrow. Until then, be well, be safe, and be free.